Hello, this is Andy Thorburn for CPI Perspectives. Today our topic will be is social media and the impact that social media has on mental health for our young people. My guest is Josh Lowenthal, Assembly Member from Assembly District 69 right here in Long Beach, currently serves as President Pro Tem of the California Assembly. First, Josh, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me. Nice to be here.
Pleasure. So let's start off this way. So I know you've become very interested in this topic of the effect social media has on young people. How did you become interested in that topic? What made you think it's such a dangerous proposition?
You know, it's been quite a journey. So I worked in tech and telecom for 25 years as an employee, as an executive, as an entrepreneur, as an investor. And what I learned from that period of time is that decision makers are focused on maximizing shareholder value. They're not focused on what are the impacts of my products on the broader public. And I took those experiences and then became a dad and ultimately becoming a legislator. You know, I realized, our focus in the legislature needs to be more about what are the impacts taking place. And as a dad, I'm seeing those impacts firsthand. It's like a laboratory right in front of me. And it's tough. It's really tough what this anxious generation is going through.
So let's be a little more specific, though. When we talk about the impacts of social media on young people, what are those negative impacts that really have you concerned?
Well, first I'll talk about macro impacts, right? There are indicators that should alarm all of us. For example, youth suicide's up 60% in the last 10 years. Eating disorders around the same, 65%. Anxiety and depression even higher, and particularly for girls. Teen drug use down, teen pregnancy and STDs are down. We would think that those are actually good indicators, but that is a result of a lack of socialization that's taking place. They're not making mistakes.
Watching the screens instead of socializing.
They're on screens on average 7.5 hours per day. They're on social media on average 5 hours per day. So if you think back at your childhood, at your adolescence, and remove 5 or 7.5 hours a day, it's unthinkable, actually. And so we are failing this anxious generation by not providing them with an environment that makes them feel better, that makes them feel more confident, that makes them want to, drive their lives higher, that makes them smarter.
So once you became aware of this, I know you've done some research on it, obviously, and gave us a sort of a brief summary, but you believe that there is partially a legislative solution that would help us. So tell us about your legislative solution.
There's not partially a legislative solution. It is the only solution, as a matter of fact. These companies have shown, while they brag about safety, they're actually not overly concerned with, positive outcomes for kids. And let me also remind everyone that they are profiting from all of this. This is not some altruistic thing. The more that kids are online, the more addictive, the more return that has been for shareholder value. And wellness has not been a core principle in these companies. So it's been incumbent upon legislatures in jurisdictions all over the world to start regulating these things.
Well, tell us about that. I know some countries have already moved ahead on legislation prohibiting or at least limiting social media for young people. So tell us what you've learned about that.
Yeah, in the concept of what we call age gating, which is setting a minimum limit on social media or on other products as well. We already do that with pornography. We do that with cigarettes and alcohol and gambling and, things that many adults like to do, but are not age appropriate for children. So as we see some of these really poor mental health outcomes on a macro level, as we are listening to pediatric community, scientific community, because they're unequivocal and unanimous in this concept, we have figured out that it is not age appropriate given what the products are offering right now, given how the platforms are presenting themselves right now, to do anything other than to raise the age to something that is age appropriate, to give that time back to young people. Jonathan Haidt, who is the author of The Anxious Generation, is very clear when he talks about all mammals in their development need a certain amount of playtime, not just humans, all mammals require that. So when we're taking that time away, we're stunting that development. We need to give that back. at that key age. It's fundamental for their brain
We should
development.
add the playtime that animals engage in is always based on the skills that they're going to need as adults. It looks like play, but the playtime is learning those skills. If you're a stalking animal, the play is you're stalking your little brothers and sisters, right? So we're not doing that anymore. So the young people, instead of developing the skills, are just on social media.
Totally.
Right.
And the biggest, by the way, it shouldn't be called social media. It should be called anti-social media.
That's a very good
because
point. Right.
the biggest thing that I think you're talking about right now, Andy, is socialization.
Right.
And we're seeing a declining birth rate right now. We're seeing a declining rate of dating. We're seeing some very alarming things that, affect humanity as a whole. This isn't just, how to get test scores higher. This is about the future of where we're going as a people. And I got to say this, by the way, we don't want social media to go away. This is not tobacco. This is not an energy transition where some energy is actually going to be left behind. We have to do it to preserve the planet. I don't see these guys as only the problem. I actually see them as the solution. We need to be leveraging that technology. We need to be leveraging all those data points in ways that can make our young people better people, happier.
Yeah, I think it's an essential point to say this is not anti-social media.
Right.
It's like smoking.
Right.
Well, actually, smoking is a bad example, but it's not anti-social media in the sense you want to eliminate it. So what actually have you proposed legislatively, other than eliminating it completely? What kind of restrictions do you think are appropriate?
Well, we've done a lot of things. This year, the biggest one is setting a minimum age, which we've aligned at 16 to be appropriate for social media. But accompanying with that is making sure that we have regulatory oversight, which we don't have right now, which is wild. We in California have regulatory oversight over cemeteries and acupuncture and cannabis control. Beauty parlors, all important things. But we don't have any regulatory oversight for the 7.5 hours a day, which is equivalent
to school.
Think about the oversight we have at schools.
You don't have to be a licensed social media provider, right?
Right.
You do to be a teacher.
That's right. Think about how involved parents are with schools, with choosing what school, talking to the principal, having a pipeline directly to the parents,
and being graded,
having meetings, being graded, all of those
There's
things.
Some accountability there.
And to assess development and progress of the students. Not only is there nothing on the other side, there's nobody you can even talk to. We need to have oversight to level set. And also, I have to say, let's be real, man. I've got a staff of 8 people. Half of them are in the district doing district things. One of them is a scheduler. And I'm going to vote on 5,000 things in the course of a year. I'm going to make 5,000 votes a year. The legislature cannot keep up with the dizzying pace of changes in technology right now and changes in these platforms. And neither can the Attorney General in terms of enforcement. We need regulatory oversight that is constantly monitoring, that has the authority to request data or demand data, to assess those things, and to advise and make recommendations to the legislature on what laws we need to pass to keep things safe for kids, to keep them socializing, to make sure that their development is at a place where it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And by the way, this is the very, very first generation that is not surpassing the generation before it.
So let me thank you for your time. And let me just make as a closing comment, social media and the impact it has on our youth is obviously one of the most important and fastest growing topics of interest. And today you've heard from one of our leading legislators about legislative solutions, legislative approaches to that problem. Thank you.